Hello, Karen. Can I get a roll call with approval of the minutes?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Krenz,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez, JJ,
I abstain. I wasn't at the last meeting.
Mr. Rasmus,
I abstain. I wasn't at the last meeting.
the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, the next thing is the consent agenda on orders. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Rasmus,
Yes.
Mr. JJ Gonzalez, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Krenz,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay. Trying to keep your computers on mute. Okay. Before we go on with our new business, tonight we have public hearings on two separate land use cases. The rules for both public hearings are the same, but I will go over them twice, once at the beginning of the hearing for each case. Please keep in mind that this is a new process. We're still working out some issues and there may be some bumps along the way, but we would appreciate your patience as we go through the process. With that said, I will go over the order of presentation. The order of presentations for each case is as follows. First will be the staff's presentation. Second will be the applicant's presentation. Third, members of the public will be allowed to testify for or against the application. Commission members may ask questions at each stage of the case. Cross-examination. The county's rules of order allow a party to cross-examine or question a witness. If the applicant wishes to cross-examine or ask questions of county staff or any member of the public, the applicant must notify the chair before the staff member or member of the public is excused. Failure to do so means the right to cross-examine with regard to staff or particularly member of the public is waived. Limits on public's testimony. Members of the public will generally be allowed no more than 3 minutes to speak. Please be focused and time your presentation accordingly. You will be muted after 3 minutes. I will be enforcing the prohibition on redundant, irrelevant, and testimony and comments, so you may not get to speak for 3 minutes. This means that if someone else already testified to do something, I am not going to allow someone else to testify to it as well. If testimony is not relevant to the issues raised by the application, I will not allow the testimony. If the testimony consists of personal or other improper attacks or is otherwise out of order, I will stop it. Identification of members of the public. Before we get started with case 19-5150, Jose Larinaga, the last members of the public who are interested in testifying for or against the application to identify themselves by name, either via the chat feature, a WebEx, or orally. At the public input stage, Mr. Larinaga will call on individuals one at a time. Once you are called, and only then should you unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record. You will be sworn in by the court reporter before being allowed to testify for up to 3 minutes. Jose, at this time, I will turn things over to you to identify people who wish to testify on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you want to testify in case number 19-5150, please identify yourself either through the chat feature of WebEx or by unmuting yourself and stating your name. Please state your names. Is there anybody out there who wants to testify in case number 19-5150.
Which case is that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
nobody's saying anything, so I don't believe anybody wants to testify on this.
Okay, thank you, Jose. With that out of the way, I will ask the case manager, Miguel Romero, to make the presentation for staff. Please proceed, Miguel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just to let you know, as we're all aware, there's a lot of background noise, and not everybody's coming in very clear on their mics, so I'll do my best. Walking in Circles Ranch Incorporated applicant, Ebert and Associates agent, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a horse rescue and rehabilitation facility up to 70 horses on 29.829 acres. A new 2,400 square foot office building will be constructed on track 1, replacing an existing 840 square foot office. The site is zoned residential estate and is located at 198 and 188 North Weimer Road within Township 11 North, Range 7 East, Section 24, Sustainable Development Area Number 2, Commission District 3. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow a horse rescue and rehabilitation facility up to 70 horses on 2 tracts totaling 29.829 acres. A new 2,400 square foot office building will be constructed on track 1, replacing an existing unpermitted 840 square foot office. The applicant has stated that once the CUP is approved and the new office is built, the 840 square foot office will be removed from the property. The applicant is also proposing to install a new septic system that will only serve the proposed office. The existing septic system will continue to serve the residents. A total of 2 septic systems will be located on track 1. A 6,048 square foot retention pond will be constructed on track 2 to capture drainage. The horse rescue and rehabilitation facility is located on track 1 and will operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week. There will be a full-time caretaker, 4 full-time employees, 3 part-time employees, 1 horse trainer, and numerous volunteers. Clientele wanting to adopt a horse is by appointment only. Track 2 will only be utilized for its well and for the use of a retention pond to capture drainage. Track 2 is otherwise vacant with no structures. The site is on residential estate. Appendix B, use matrix illustrates stables and other equine-related facilities, commercial, over 12 horses as a conditional use. Prior to March 7, 2019 TAC meeting, the applicant contacted staff to inquire about a building permit to construct a new office building at 198 North Weimer Road for the Walking in Circles Ranch Horse Rescue and Rehabilitation Facility. At that time, staff informed the applicant that they did not have a business license to operate a horse rescue and rehabilitation facility. Staff informed the applicant that in order to operate a horse facility of up to 70 horses, the applicant would need to apply for a CUP. Staff informed the applicant of the CUP process. Walking in Circles Ranch Incorporated has been operating without an approved business license from Santa Fe County since 2002. Currently, the applicant has a caretaker living on site in the existing 2,144 square foot residence. There are numerous existing accessory structures on site, which include a main stable, hay barn, gray barn, tack barn, east barn, and several loafing sheds. The total square footage for all structures, including the proposed office, totals 16,802 square feet. The existing structure will continue to be used by the horse facility. Staff has been able to locate 1 permit, which was for the single-family residence. The site plan submitted with permit 94-749 illustrates a barn adjacent to the residence, which is identified by the applicant as the main barn. No other structures were illustrated on the site plan. The application was reviewed for the following applicable design standards as per Chapter 7 of the SLDC: access and road design standards, fire protection, landscaping and buffering, lighting, signs, parking and loading, utilities, water supply, wastewater, water conservation, protection of historic and archaeological resources, terrain management, flood prevention and flood control, and solid waste. The applicant has responded to the conditional use permit approval criteria. Staff did reply to the criteria. Recommendation. If the decision of the Planning Commission is to recommend approval, staff recommends the imposition of the conditions listed below in accordance with the hearing officer's recommendation. Staff recommends approval of a conditional use permit to allow horse rescue and rehabilitation facility up to 70 horses on 29.829 acres, subject to the following conditions. I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. Does the commission have any questions of staff?
No worries.
Any questions of the commission?
You were Oscar.
Was. I'm talking to you.
I'm on the planning commission meeting. I'm on mute, but did you have any issues with the walking horse rescue and rehabilitation facility? Why Weimer Road? I think that's Stanley.
Yeah,
I think-
Edgewood.
Edgewood.
Or Edgewood.
So they're going to be built.
Okay, there's no questions from the commission.
There is an existing building which is.
Jim, are you representing the
They're
applicant?
gonna tear that down and build a 2,000 some square feet office. So you had no issues with access, representation.
Can you hear me?
I guess it's an existing one.
Yeah, it's existing. They probably need some red numbers because the sun eats everything.
Okay.
But we designed that. I've been working with them years now.
Mr. Sieber, this is Charlie Gonzalez here. Are you going to be making a presentation for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, this is Wayne. I will be making presentation for the applicant.
Okay, please proceed.
You just put approved, which,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supposed to be talking. Can we get that muted?
yeah,
So their address.
no, I'm muted.
So their address.
Just let me know when you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, somebody's not muted. Whoever's talking out there, can you mute yourself?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel Fresquez with Santa Fe County. I'm going to blanket mute everybody. And if you're going to speak, please unmute yourself. But then when you're done speaking, please remute yourself, and that'll get rid of all that feedback that's going on. So I'm going to blanket mute
Okay,
everybody
thank you.
right now.
Thank you, Daniel.
Wayne Dalton with James W. Siebert and Associates. We are representing Walking in Circles. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, like staff stated in the report, we're requesting a conditional use permit for an existing horse rescue facility, not to exceed 70 horses. We have addressed the CUP criteria, and we feel that the project is compatible with the area and surrounding properties. The facility has been in operation since 2002 with no complaints from the surrounding properties or the community in general. The applicant was not aware that a business license needed to be obtained from Santa Fe County to conduct a nonprofit facility, being that they are permitted with the State Livestock Board. I also would like to say, Mr. Chair, we've worked diligently with staff to get to this point of approval, and we're in agreement with all staff conditions. Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Richard Holder with Walking in Circles Ranch, so he can give you a rundown of what the facility is and how successful they've been.
Thank you, Wayne.
Do I need to unmute myself?
Yes, Richard, unmute yourself.
Yes, Richard. Richard, Karen, are you still there? Could you swear them in, please?
If our president, Charlene Hudson, is on the line, we've agreed that she would make the next statement. Is Char there?
Yes, I am, Richard.
All right, then I'll just stand by. You go ahead. I'll remute myself.
Okay, Shar, this is Charlie, the chair. Could you stand by while I get Aaron to swear you in for your testimony?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Please,
Can you, yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Shar, could you supply your last name, please?
My last name is Hudson, Hudson.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give this afternoon is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
please proceed.
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Walking in Circles Ranch, thank you for allowing us a few moments to share a bit about our organization. Obviously, my name is Shar Hudson. I currently serve as the board president, and I have volunteered at Walking in Circles for over 7 years. My daughter and I started in 2013 when I was looking for something that she and I could do together, and that is how we became involved with the horse rescue. I did not grow up around horses, rode on family vacations and Girl Scout camp, but my formal training was all through Walking in Circles, and I am a proud owner of a Walking in Circles rescue horse. A little bit about the rescue. For more than 18 years now, I am proud to tell you that we have been true to our mission of rehabilitating and finding good homes for abandoned and abused horses. Since our founding, we've changed the lives of nearly 400 horses. This work is thanks to our close collaboration with the state's livestock board and other horse rescues across the state through the New Mexico Equine Rescue Alliance. We are inspected every year by the livestock board, and we are accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. Walking in Circles and the Horse Shelter are the only 2 licensed rescues serving Santa Fe County. Residents of the county and surrounding areas know that we are a haven for equine they can no longer afford to keep. In fact, 40% of the horses we obtained in 2019 were direct surrenders. Our ranch has received significant media attention for our efforts in Edgewood, which shines positively on Santa Fe County. Though we are approved to care up to 70 horses, we currently maintain a herd size of 40. I thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to give a presentation? Okay. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Where do you get your operating budget monies?
Mr. Chair, I couldn't hear the question.
Please repeat the
budget.
I still can't hear the question. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
Okay, please repeat the question.
I'll try. I want to know where the operating budget comes from.
Was that the water budget?
No, the overall budget.
We can't understand. Is there a way you can type it in?
I think he's asking, where does our operating budget come from?
Correct.
The operating.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd refer that question to either Shar or Richard with Walking in Circles Ranch.
Please respond.
This is Shar. So our operating budget comes from no government funding. Everything that we obtain comes from our thrift store, which is in Edgewood, private donations, estates, bequests, and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. With that said, Any other questions of staff? Okay, I do have one question. Vicky, do we feel that staff has any possible violations on the property that's been there for years? Is that all handled and taken care of?
Mr. Chair, with this application, the applicants have addressed all the issues that they needed to complete. So with this application, if it gets approved, they will be in conformance with the county code regulations.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody out there that wants to speak on behalf or against this case? I don't hear anything. Being that said, do we have a motion for the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that this matter be approved subject to staff recommendation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
I move that the application be approved subject to staff recommendations.
I second and say, and request that it be subject to the conditions that staff has outlined.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Karen, please get us a roll call vote.
Mr. Rasnick?
Aye.
Mr. J.J. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Ms. Martin? Aye. Mr. Lopez? Mr. Krenz? Mr. Krenz? Mr. Cass?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez, the chair.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Okay. The next case is case number 185250, conceptual plan and variance, Reme Las Campanas. Conceptual plan and variances. Before we get started, I will go over the rules for the public hearing. Please keep in mind that this is a new process. We're still working out some issues and bumps along the way, but we would greatly appreciate your patience as we go through the process. With that said, I will go over the order of presentation for the cases as follows. First will be the staff's presentation. Second, applicant's presentation. Third, members of the public will be allowed to testify for or against the application. Commissioners may ask questions at each stage of the case. Cross-examination. The county's rules of order allow a party to cross-examine or question a witness. If the applicant wishes to cross-examine or ask questions of county staff or any member of the public, the applicant must notify the chair before the staff member or member of the public is excused. Failure to do so means the right to cross-examination with regard to staff or a particular member of the public is waived. Limits on public testimony. Members of the public will generally be allowed no more than 3 minutes to speak. Please be focused and time your presentation accordingly. You will be muted after 3 minutes. I will be enforcing the prohibition on redundant, irrelevant, and harassing testimony and comments, so you may not get to speak for 3 minutes. This means that if someone else has already testified to something, I am not going to allow someone else to testify to it as well. If testimony is not relevant to the issues raised by the application, I will not allow the testimony. If the testimony consists of personal or other improper attacks or is otherwise out of order, I will stop it. Identification of members of the public. Before we get started with case 18-5250, Jose Larrañaga will ask members of the public who are interested in testifying for or against the application to identify themselves by name, either via the chat feature of WebEx or orally. At the public input stage, Mr. Larrañaga will call on individuals one at a time. Once you are called, and only then should you unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record. You will be sworn in by the court reporter before being allowed to testify for up to 3 minutes. Jose, at this time, I will turn things over to you to identify people who wish to testify on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you want to testify on case number 18-5250, please identify yourself either through the chat feature of WebEx or by unmuting yourself and stating your name. Does anybody want to testify on this case? Mr. Chair, are you hearing anybody wanting to testify?
I am not hearing anything, but does anybody want to testify to case 18-5250, Rembe Las Campanas? Please speak out. Okay. I will ask the case manager, Nathan Manzanares, please proceed with your presentation.
And 3 variances. The 3 variances requested for the project are of Chapter 7, Section 7-17-9-2-4, steep slope disturbance in excess of 30%, and Chapter 7, Section 7.17.9.2 to allow structures to be located on ridgetop, ridgeline, or shoulders where there is no other buildable area on the property. And the final variance is of the Sustainable Land Development Code and of Ordinance 17-7, Section 711-2-4. That is an amendment of the SLDC road standards to allow separation of less than 100 feet from the return radius of an intersection. The proposal is located within the Las Campanas Plan Development District on tracks B and H of the previously approved Los Santeros subdivision. The total development for Tierra que Canta is comprised of 12.23 acres. The proposal is accessed via Calle Gonzalez and is located within Commission District 2 and the Sustainable Development Area 2. Mr. Chair, in lieu of the technical difficulties, would you like a condensed version of the report or the full report?
Yes, a condensed version, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The history of the project is outlined in the staff report, as well as a summary of the previous hearing officer meeting. The concerns that were brought up during the hearing officer meeting were from members of the public and neighbors of the development. On March 12, 2020, this application was presented to the hearing officer for consideration. The applicant's agent, Jim Siebert, gave a presentation of the proposal and answered questions from hearing officer Virtue and the concerned neighbors that were present. During the applicant's presentation, the applicant stated that they were willing to abide by the following conditions, which were agreed upon with the neighbors. Gonzalez Road would be continuous with the Rembe tracks B and H and will be paved with asphalt to a 20-foot wide width or a local collector road standard requested by staff. The current sharp bend on Gonzales Road will be realigned to a safer curve, and the intersection will be improved to a four-way stop intersection. 40% of the lots on the cul-de-sac road that goes to the north to Tierra-Cacanta facing dwellings on the east side of the fairway will be restricted to 1 story in height. The final condition agreed upon with the neighbors and the applicant was that the development will not be mass graded, and a phased grading plan will be provided to the county as part of the subdivision infrastructure application. In conclusion, staff and the Santa Fe County Hearing Officer have established that the application with its proposed variances of the SLDC are needed to create a functional road network within the Tierra-Cacanta subdivision. Staff also has established that the ridgetop lots in the Tierra-Cacanta is in compliance with the variance review criteria of the SLDC. Staff recommendation and the recommendation of the hearing officer is to conditionally approve the variances requested, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. Mr. Chair, may I enter the variance approval conditions into the record as stated in the staff report?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez. Recommendation for the conceptual plan. Staff and the Santa Fe County Hearing Officer have also established that the application for conceptual plan to allow a 22-lot residential subdivision known as Tierra-Cacanta to be developed in 2 phases is in compliance with the criteria set forth in the. If the Planning Commission recommends approval of the variances requested, staff and the hearing officer recommend approval of the conceptual plan, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. If any of the 3 variances requested are denied by the Planning Commission, staff and the hearing officer recommend denial of the conceptual plan. Mr. Chair, may I enter the conceptual plan approval conditions into the record as stated in the staff report?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I now stand for any questions at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Does the commission have any questions of staff? Any questions from the commission?
Yes, I have a question. My question is whether the staff is satisfied the neighbors are comfortable and with the proposed project.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Katz, as stated in the staff report, the agents, Mr. Seabrook, the agent, had met with the public and had come up with approval conditions to appease the neighborhood. There are some members of the public that still have questions pertaining to the development, and I believe those questions should be deferred to the applicant. Staff has done their review and has determined that this project should be conditionally approved as the conditions stated in the staff report.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Katz, if I could just add to clarify, Miss Mona Shoup, who is on the line, sent a message that she is opposed, but she, I guess she chose not to speak and stated she will email her comments.
I saw her and wondered whether she will give that to us so that we would be able to consider it.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Please speak.
Someone talking.
Oh, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. This is Mona Shoup. I live in Las Campanas.
Oh, Mona,
Hi.
Mona, please stand by so I can get you sworn in from Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Mona, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish questions from the Planning Commission first, and then you can speak afterwards, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more questions from the Planning Commission? Okay, I have a couple. So, I noticed that on NBC 111, there's a letter from Jose Varela Lopez, and he's asking for a soils map. And I'm curious if that was ever submitted. In addition to that, I'm curious if a geotechnical report was ever done as well.
Mr. Chair, this is Nathan Montanati. One of the approval conditions from staff for the conceptual plan approval is that a geotechnical be submitted prior to the application going forward for final plat approval. Staff has conducted numerous site inspections and has found that the soil is, highly dense, and we also had that concern, and therefore the approval condition is stated in the staff report as condition number. Condition number 15, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Very good. I do have concerns about the drainage along Calle Gonzalez. I'm working on several projects in that area, inspecting them, and the drainage along that road is terrible. The water comes down the ditch and it just goes straight into the street where nothing to go. I just want to make sure that we're going to get an engineer to design that and get that working correctly.
Mr. Chair, this is Nathan Montanati again. Staff also had the same concerns and made approval conditions 18, 19, and 20 relevant to address those issues. Condition number 18 is that the boundaries of the development shall be clearly marked on the site with limits of disturbance, and fencing or construction barriers are to be approved by staff prior to any grading or clearing taking place. And they also need to submit an engineered grading and drainage plan and a SWIP plan as well. And county staff is not allowing any mass grading to take place on the site. And a special building note will have to be noted on the plat that no mass grading is allowed within the subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Nathan, for everybody out here that's listening, could you, do you perchance have the definition of a ridgetop handy?
Yes, sir, I do. That can be found in Appendix A of the SLDC on page A. Pardon me, let me get that for you.
Could you please read it for us?
Yes, sir. The definition of a ridgetop per the SLDC is defined as the uppermost elevation between the shoulder and crest of any hill or ridge. There's also a diagram that depicts this. Let me see if I can share that diagram. Are you able to see this diagram and definition, Mr. Chair?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
So as you can see, we take the ridgetop based off the shoulder. If the shoulders are in excess of 30%, therefore that is considered, if you have two sides in excess of 30%, we will define it as a ridge line or ridgetop.
Sounds good. It seems to have remained the same since I was here.
All right, I'm going to stop this right now, Mr. Chair. I'm going to remove this from the screen.
Okay. Okay, Nathan, I have a question from one of the other commissioners, Steve Krantz, and I had the same question as well. We would like to know, we'd like to clarify which lots are related to the two variances.
Mr. Chair, if you're able to access your packet, they are going to be on NBC Exhibit 13. NBC 143. They will be lots 16, 17, and 18. Those are the lots that are requesting the ridge top variance. And they're also highlighted orange, if you're able to see that. I'll also try to share this screen. Give me one sec.
Okay, I found them, Nathan. Did the rest of the commission find that?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Nathan. All right. Who's going to speak for the applicant? Is it going to be Jim or Wayne?
Jim Siebert for the applicant.
Jim, please proceed.
Do I need to be sworn in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Siebert, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My address, it's Jim Siebert. My address is 915 Mercer. Let me give you a little background on this. Is there any way I can mute some of that background? If it was actually... Which one?
This one.
How's that?
Okay, let me try that. No, still doing it.
Are we on? Are we on? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Jim. Please proceed if you can.
All right. Mr. Chair, I'm beginning to think I should go to a telephone.
Hold on one second again. Here to see.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, try it now again.
Okay. Please stand back away so you get out. To give you a little background on this, this is part of what's called the Los Santeros subdivision. And actually it was approved several years ago back in, the 200, around 2000. These particular tracks, B&H, were approved at that time for 22 units. The SLDC, when it was adopted, continued to recognize the master plan that was approved for West Componish. So the zoning in this tract of land that actually was established several years ago, the master plan that was approved for Los Santeros. Jay Lemby, who is the developer of this property, has also done work in Los Santeros, and the quality of his work is known. Neighbors can have a chance to go by and take a look at the product he's provided. The product that is proposed here is very similar to the one that he's already developed in Los Santeros. Let me go to, at least I'm going to try to share some photos with you. See if this works. To give you a little orientation on it, this is Las Campanas Drive. This is Gonzales Road here. This is the Las Campanas wastewater treatment plant, and this is the dog park for the owners in Las Campanas. There's also surrounded on two sides by the golf course. You can see there's a considerable amount of vegetation, and one of the issues we discussed with the neighbors was that any existing vegetation outside the perimeter of the property, of course, would be retained. The other thing that takes place is that you can see there's a considerable amount of vegetation between the owners here along the property and the boundary of Terry Santa. And on the next one, where we go to the next one. Yeah. This is actually pictures taken from Terry Santa looking towards the neighboring properties. And what you can see is that at least from the first floor, the majority of Terra Cantata is hidden by the actual vegetation that exists on the property. In the second floor, it's not true. You do have a view of Terra Cantata. Where's the next one? It just disappeared. I just lost my arrow and it's taking that one. Or maybe it's okay. So this is a picture of the 30% slopes. There was a question about where the variances are located, and probably the most significant one is down along here on the south boundary, where we have and they, by the way, meet the standard for setbacks from what's called the ridge top, which is that break point that Nathan talked about, 30% slopes. So you can see how that works. So we meet the standard, even if you meet the standard, 25 feet, you still have to request a variance. There is an issue here on Gonzales Road that has a very short curve. We're going to have to flatten that curve in order to, for safety purposes. Right now, it's a very short curve, and there's no, other than a temporary sign that says please stop, nobody does. There will be a four-way stop that's created at this point right here. In terms of the variance for the setback from the intersection, it's really the SLDC, and in my opinion, just simply didn't take into account the lots that would be this size. And it does, the SLDC does provide the land use administrator to provide a waiver of that in cases like this. And in this case, the waiver is we had a certain modifications to the plan. The waiver was granted by land use. Go to the next slide. This is just a description. This is the phase that the first phase would be phasing and development that would be established this phase here, and then the remainder for development. So I'm sure I'll get out of it. Do that. I would like to say that the conditions that we have agreed to and actually made part of the record during the original meeting with the hearing officer were conditions that came out of 3 different meetings we had with neighborhood groups. We have done our very best to satisfy all those requirements. And we agreed to the conditions both as stated by the variances by staff and by the conceptual plan stated by staff. With that, I'll just take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have any questions of the applicant from the commission?
Yeah, there's an option.
Any questions of the applicant? Come on, JJ, you always have questions.
Listening, I'm just listening. I think that there's a lot of density there, 22 lots on 12 acres. With all the infrastructure and roads, it seems that very small lots, 10,000 square foot lots. Very small lots to accommodate maybe large houses. I don't know, I have questions about that, but thank you.
Actually,
I'll hear for an answer.
Thank you, JJ. Anybody else from the commission? I have a couple concerns myself. Being that I used to enforce this a long time ago, I do have concerns about the units that are proposed on the ridge top. When I see buildable areas in the bottom, I'll let Jim respond to that after a while. But I also have questions about the depth of the sewer line. Do you guys have any idea how deep that sewer is going to be?
we have that, our Warren Walker, the engineer, has been working with us. And it's my understanding it will be more of the traditional depth, to be anywhere from 4 to 6 feet.
Okay, yeah, I have concerns about that because a lot of times it's the depth of the sewer line that kind of regulates how much the disturbance is going to be with the depth of the trench and the piling of the spoils. So that sounds good to me. Jim, I also have a question on there's a recommendation by staff as far as let's see here, the driveways. I'm reading something over here that staff proposed. Staff has also recommended to the applicant that a driveway located on lot 1 align with the driveway of lot 8, as well as for the driveway located on lot 2 to run along the southwestern part of the property. By relocating, teeing up the driveway on lot 1 and lot 2, as well as shifting the driveway on lot 2. All driveways in the development would meet a minimum 25-foot setback from radiuses of the proposed four-way intersection. And it says here that you guys rejected that recommendation. Can you let me know why?
No, actually we didn't. Earlier on, we had questions regarding that. But in fact, the present plan addresses that particular setback and satisfies the 25-foot setback from the radius return of the intersection. So we've satisfied that condition already.
I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't catch all that. Could you repeat yourself?
We have adjusted those intersections so that they comply with that condition. And the plan that we have in front of you actually does comply with that condition. Did you get that?
Yes. Thank you.
I have this question. What is the minimum and maximum square footage allowed for each house?
If that was a question, I didn't hear it.
Please repeat the question. Okay.
What is the minimum and maximum square footage garage.
Hey, Fred, could you please maybe type it into the computer? So we can understand what you're saying. I can't, it's breaking up on me.
This is Jay Remby. I believe it said the minimum and maximum size of the house.
I'm getting an echo chamber over here.
What I heard was a question about the minimum and maximum size of each of the houses.
Thank you, Frank. Please respond to that, Jim.
The typical size of the house will be right around 2,000 square feet. And that includes a small structure that kind of helps form the patio. And the sum of all that is right around 2,000 square feet.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Charlie. How many of the houses will be two-story?
One of the for the ones that face on the long cul-de-sac to the north, that 40% of those would be limited and could not be two-story. You able to?
I guess I'm still unclear at which ones that includes. Is that 40% of the total will be one story or 40% of a certain number of them? I didn't have any sense of which ones you're talking about.
No, 40% of the ones on the cul-de-sac to the north would not be two stories.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Any other question?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about this gate issue that was in the notes. Has this been resolved?
Thank you, Steve. Please answer, Jim.
Let me go back and see if I can pull something up here. This is Sharon. Let's go to that one. The gate actually is located here out in the right of way of Las Campanas Drive. So we have no control whatsoever over that issue of the gate. It will be an issue, obviously, that will have to be broached with the Las Campanas HOA. It's a construction gate right now. It will continue to serve as a construction gate until such time as all construction has been completed in Los Santos.
But as I would see this, then there would be only one access to this subdivision, and that would be from the east.
If they remove the gate, yes, that would be correct.
That would be access up at the Ciudad de Aragon, correct?
I couldn't hear that.
That would be access from Ciudad de Aragon, correct?
Yes, yes.
Well,
Steve,
staff is
go ahead.
also saying that they want this road paved. The paving would stop at the subdivision line. It wouldn't go over here to where the gate is.
Well, we actually have to work on that particular issue out for the HOA. If it needs to be extended to the road, we'll extend it to the road. If the cost of finance are on that.
Commissioner Gonzalez, this is Nathan Manzanares. Just wanted to point out that approval condition number 10 states that staff is willing to work with Las Campanas and the applicant to resolve the gate issue. There is some right-of-way issues that have come up, and we are willing to work with either the Las Campanas HOA on a separate application or variance regarding the gate. But that was an approval condition listed as number 10.
But just to make it clear, the gate really is something that's outside our control.
Yeah,
It may be outside to your control, but it seems to me that affects the fire and police access to this area.
Well, I think Las Campanas, the preference of Las Campanas is to keep the gate at the minimum as a construction gate for secondary emergency purposes. But once again, we feel that as certainly the secondary emergency access it's warranted, but we can't say that we should either keep the gate or remove the gate.
yeah, I have concerns myself because if we don't get this resolved, we're not going to get the drainage out of that driveway to where it's supposed to go.
Well, yeah, the issues that were brought up before, the drainage, the grading, the soils, soils testing, all that becomes part of the subdivision. And it's really not required for the variance or the conceptual plan.
Hey, Jim, could you verify with me that you're only logged in with one device?
What?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
You seem to be getting feedback in the street.
Do you think I'm causing that?
I didn't get that. Could you repeat it?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel Fresquez with the county again. So I'm looking at all the attendees, and there are 2 with Jim's name and 2 with Fred's name, and those are the 2 that are causing feedback. It may be just another window that was opened accidentally, and it's picking up the voice twice. That's why it's causing so much echo and noise with that. So Jim and Fred, if you could just check yours, and that should help.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay.
Did that do it?
Yes, it did.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That sounds a lot better right now.
It's all part of the learning experience here. Yeah.
That's for sure. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I had one other question to follow up on the density that was brought up earlier. I'd like to ask the applicant, how does the density of this project compare to density elsewhere in Las Campanas?
Well, they actually, in the Los Santeros subdivision, they have subdivisions that are very similar to this one. And like I mentioned previously, the 22 units were approved as part of a master plan, and Jay Remby bought the property based on his ability to get 22 units on the land. And as the houses that he's done elsewhere on Los Santeros are similar in size. Lot sizes are slightly larger, but basically it's a very tight subdivision that allows for a lower price point and a much different product than found elsewhere in Las Campanas.
This is Jay Remby, the applicant. I'm happy to comment a little bit further if you'd like to on that.
Yes, so could you wait till we go, till we get to the applicant, please?
Absolutely.
Oh, is there any other questions? I'm sorry, did you finish your question? Steve?
Yes, sir, I did.
Anything else? What was his name? Mr. Remy, please, get sworn in before you speak.
Certainly.
Mr. Rembe, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth?
I do.
And your street address, please, sir?
9808 Bonatera Loop, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Please.
Dennis, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I appreciate it. So there are three phases that were originally designed by ASW, all of which were meant to be attached product type to really accommodate an empty nester, lock and leave, smaller house, much easier to maintain. This is the third phase. Two have already been built. I came in, my former partnership, and we built out phase two. This phase three was already designed, so I'm actually taking the exact product type that was already built, which was an attached product type, these wonderful little courtyards framed by little casitas, and the ability to have a second two-story portion on the house. So they exist. Las Campanas has accepted them. They're well designed, and all I'm really trying to do is just move forward with phase three. All of this has been designed, it exists, and again, Los Santeros, in these tracks in particular, were designed to have these little lock and leave houses, kind of cluster compound style. This zoning allows for 7 attached units, which we're not doing. We're trying to do some attached, just like we did in the others, some not attached. And then the second story portion, unlike some of the other photos that you saw across the golf course, it's a very small portion of the house that's on the second story. So the massing is quite good. It's literally just a bedroom that's on that second story, and it's furthest away from the golf course and those main views that most of the neighbors seem to be concerned about. The restriction in height in that area that some of you commented on earlier, really seems to be the major issues with views. And so I was willing, even though the entire site's approved and allowed for 2-story, approved and allowed for attached up to 7 units. I was comfortable to restrict those because that was an issue with some of the neighbors. And the tighter the buildable area, the more efficient it is, the more organic, the more green it is. So we're trying to minimize infrastructure. We're trying to create these little wonderful courts and attached product with really wonderful massing. I'm not interested in building these big, massive houses. That's not what I do. From Albuquerque, I have a really, I think I've established a good relationship or reputation on developing really quality, wonderful projects. And, been excited to forward in Las Campanas, even though the economy, since 2009, we purchased this prior to that, hasn't allowed me to move forward. So it's finally time to move forward. the whole idea with this site, at the time that we bought it was, the buildable areas were up and close to the golf course, and that's really where I need to be. If they're further down and they don't have those views and that presence on the golf course, the site really doesn't work. And again, that's how it was sold to me, with that preliminary design with those 3 phases. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you. I do have one question. Who is going to be the builder of the houses?
Currently, it's a builder out of Albuquerque. He's doing work in Santa Fe. As I can't tell you right now. It's confidential only because I'm afraid some other developer will go and try to take them to their other site. We get further along and all the contingencies are removed and they're hard. I'm happy to.
Okay. Earlier, I think I heard Jim mention that Maury Walker is going to be the design engineer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, staff would like clarification on one of the conditions imposed by the applicant, particular condition 24. It has to do with the 2 stories. We'd like those to be better defined just for, we could better manage that from a permitting standpoint. Because when you say 40%, how are we going to keep track of that 40%? We'd prefer if the 2-story lots were defined and given to staff prior to preliminary and final plat. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
I think that's a good suggestion. Any response?
This is Jay Remby. Are you suggesting that we identify 40% lots? Is that what you suggest? Or just the area again? Can you clarify that for me?
Mr. Chair, staff is requesting that the lots that are going to have 2-story houses be defined. That way staff can track it and that approval condition can be satisfied.
Yeah, so usually how I've seen it done at the city or other plastings, other plastings, they usually put a note on the plat stating which lots are going to be 2-story. Jim or Mr. Remba, could you please respond?
I'm happy to try to agree to that if there's some flexibility, if some things changes with the buyer or the massing might be better a different way just based on how it might look, as long as staff can work with me. Am I going to identify it on the plat? If things change, we come back and ask if we switch one for the other. Comfortable with that.
Does that sound workable to you? All right, Nathan?
Mr. Chair, yeah, but like I said, the main thing comes down to, since this is a condition being imposed by staff, we have to be able to, make sure that that condition is satisfied. So just from a tracking standpoint, it could get tricky to achieve that 40%. That's why we're asking for, the lots to be defined. Are you willing to, do a number of lots? I know you said 40%. What is that? 4, 3, 5 houses? What is that number?
Jim, you might want to tell me what that is, but I don't have it in front of me. But I'm happy to define the lots like you asked. Are you okay with some flexibility later where, let's say, lot 2 was defined for a 2-story and lot 3 was 1-story, and for some reason we just got to switch them? Are you comfortable that some mechanism that allows some flexibility?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Remby, staff is definitely willing to work with you on achieving that condition. We just want to put that out on the record that we need to be able to track this somehow.
Nathan, do we need to modify condition number 24 or add a new condition?
So Mr. Chair, 40% of the lots would be 9 lots. I don't know if you would like to make that recommendation that only 9 lots within the development can be 2-story. But it's open for discussion.
And I'd like to comment. And Nathan, the 40% was just on the north eastern lots. And, you know, the challenge is if you limit the way those houses were designed, you limit the 2-story, and now I'm only doing 1-story, I will only have a footprint of about 1,600 square feet. And it puts me under the threshold of the 2,000, which we're going to have to go back from with Las Campanas anyway. And that 1,600 square feet, it's not big enough to allow for, I think, an absorption of most of those houses. When we built these in the second phase, the optimal design, was the little casita and the house, which was just under 2,000 square feet. So I was willing to agree to the 40% of those eastern lots, which I think totaled how many lots, Jim? Was it 3 or was it 4?
I think there's 11 lots there.
So there's 11 lots there. 40%. Can you read the condition?
I wonder, Nathan, if we can work something out at the subdivision level that we would designate the lots at the time we come in for the platting process. And then, you know, based on, you know, the actual market demand, if we need to adjust, I guess we would like the opportunity to adjust those, but, you know, we could do that at the, you know, at the subdivision level.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Siebert, you know, like I said, if this were a private covenant, it wouldn't be an issue. But since this is going to be an approval condition from staff, it needs to be satisfied. Staff's willing to work with you, but just wanted to put that out there.
Jay, is that okay with you?
It is. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Yeah.
Okay, is that staff, are you okay with this?
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if I could have Vicky Lucero's opinion on the matter, if she's present.
Mr. Chair, this is Vicky. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we can work with the applicant between now and the time they come back for final plat approval, or for preliminary and final plat approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one other follow-up question of clarification. On these lots that have 0 lot line, are these common walls? Like, for example, 13 and 14 looks like they share a garage wall?
That is correct, and where they're attached they're attached at the garage.
So it is common wall.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public hearing. Jose, are you going to try and identify some people that are willing to speak to us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. again, if you want to testify in case number 18-5250, please identify yourself.
This is Mona Schaub. I'll go ahead and make my comments if you like.
Yes, please get sworn in here. Karen, are you there?
Yes, yes. Mona, would you please spell your last name?
Yes, it's S as in Sam, H-O-U-P.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And your, oh, I'm sorry, and your address, please.
Yes. My name is Mona Schaub. I live at 7 Tecolote Circle in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Okay, I live in Las Campanas, and I do have a concern about this project. I believe Vicky's showing some photos that I took earlier of this project in January. I've actually walked the property, and I have 3 major concerns. Well, first of all, I do have a background in floodplain management and erosion, and my major concerns are the soil and water runoff, and I believe the road does need to be paved, the one that is gravel, and the gate leads out to Las Campanas Drive. And then my third concern is the tree and vegetation removal. And then I'll just go through these very quickly. On the soil and water runoff, when I've walked the property, it's full of gullies, arroyos from the erosion on this property, even though it's heavily vegetated with lots of trees. There's still a lot of erosion. And even though the county's asking the developer to take care in protecting these trees, with the high density that they're going to build, I honestly don't see how very much can be saved on this property. And this picture that's up right now, these homes are going to overlook the sewage treatment plant in Las Campanas. I don't see why anyone would buy $1 million home overlooking a sewage treatment plant. And why would anybody want to sell land, a home, overlooking a sewage treatment plant? That's ridiculous. Then also the road that's going between the 2 pieces of property, or the 2 parcels, it's not paved. It's a very steep road. It's not a 30% grade. We did the calculations on it, but it's very steep. The water is running down this road. It doesn't have that much gravel on it. Once the developer's gone, it'll be up to the homeowners to gravel that road, and it'll just stay a muddy mess. And it definitely needs to be paved, or it'll just be an eyesore. And that's where I believe a lot of the driveways are going to be backing up to, and it just needs to be done. I don't care what kind of problems the developer says they're having, it just needs to be done. And then, let's see, I know that in most of Las Campanas that 2-story homes are not allowed. At the neighborhood public meeting, Mr. Rimby was threatening to put in 2-story homes. So that needs to be looked into and discussed with Las Campanas, even though there are some 2-story homes in Los Centeros. They're really not supposed to be there according to the covenants. And in Los Centeros, in the old development, it's really quite an eyesore in some places where the development is so close, and the previous developers came in there, they did remove much of the vegetation, and there's a lot of erosion going on in there. I don't know if it's because they hard packed the soil like they did in Las Terrazas long ago before the sustainable land development codes were put in place, but there's a lot of erosion, nothing grows. And if you see the homes in there, the soil is eroding right up to the homes, right up to the walls. And it's becoming an eyesore to the rest of Las Campanas. And it's really a concern for everybody involved. And it's not fair to the current homeowners that must live in Los Santeros, and it's not fair for new homeowners coming in and buying some new properties. They expect the county, they expect Las Campanas, they expect everyone to protect them from developments like this. And I think everybody should protect one another from something like this, especially when erosion is involved. And let me see what my last point was. I think that's everything I wanted to say, but I am really concerned about the erosion on this property. And if anybody has walked the property, they'll see the erosion that's going on right now, even with all of this beautiful vegetation in place and all of the trees. And right now, the other Los Santeros, it has basically no trees, just a few little trees that what they showed earlier, and that's about all that's left. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else out there have anything to say?
This is Scott Vandenberg, and I live in Los Santeros.
Okay, Mr. Vandenberg, please hold for minutes while we swear you in, okay? Karen, please proceed. Hello, Karen, are you there? Hello, Karen.
Hello, Charlie.
Hi, Karen, could you please swear this gentleman in, please?
Yeah. Mr. Vandenberg, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth?
I do.
Could you please give your address and state your name again?
And my name is Scott Vandenberg. I live at 9 Camino de Colores, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
My concern too, and I do live right across from the property, across the golf course, is of course the trees. There's thousands of trees out here, and how are they going to make sure they're not going to disturb any trees that don't need to be between houses and so forth? Because that's a concern. We have lots of trees right here. And also, I too would like to know the ratio of 2 stories on the north side versus, I guess you would call it the south side of the project on the road. Is there any determination as to how those are going to be split up? Are they all going to be on the north side? Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wants to speak? Again, anybody out there from the public that wants to speak in favor or against this project? Okay. Being said, do we have, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Please.
This is Fred Rasnick. Could the applicant respond to the concerns raised by neighbors?
you're asking me to respond or ask if I had responded?
I'd like to hear what you have to say about
Their concern? Sure. Yeah, Jim might want to jump in, but as far as the soil erosion and runoff, you know, we hired a wonderful engineer, Maureen Walker, who can help and address those things when we get into the details. I don't own that road. It's not part of what I purchased, but I agreed as part of a condition to pave that, as that was concern of the neighbors. Initially, I was going to leave it gravel, just so it was a little bit more natural. However, neighbors really wanted that paved, so and I believe that's a condition in the variance as well. And then the tree and tree, we will keep as many trees as possibly we can. Those that are in the buildable areas, clearly we're going to have to. I certainly don't want to remove trees that I don't have to remove. As far as Mr. Vandenberg, Scott Vandenberg's question about is everything going to be on the north side, I'm not exactly sure what he's saying, but Scott, you know, we have, I believe, 11 units you, and then we have 7 that face south, and then I believe 3 that kind of face northwest. And I think you know, one of the Shope or Mrs. Shope, if I didn't pronounce that right, I apologize. But you mentioned, you know, all the houses facing the water treatment facility. Really not many at all. Most of them face east and south. They have wonderful views, vista views. And there are maybe 3 that might look at that. But that's the site that I purchased, and I'm comfortable with that. You mentioned $1 million houses. You know, our goal is to build these wonderful designed little units, smaller units that are lock and leave. They're not going to be $1 million. I wish they were, but they won't. They're going to be priced probably, you know, 500 to maybe 700,000, depending on where they are located. And we'll do our best to, again, keep as many trees as possible on that. I think I answered all the questions. If I did, please let me know.
Okay, are we still, any more questions? Okay, I would just like to state myself as when it gets to closer to the stage for the actual permits, staff will review it and they'll be requiring more detailed information for the engineering of the road and so forth. What I'm seeing out there is that they're probably gonna have to end up putting jack dams along the road and other BMPs, which will be needed to take care of the drainage stuff. Okay, any other questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of the commission? Anybody, any discussions or motion?
I think a concern that I have is that we don't know which ones are going to be 2-story and which ones are going to be 1-story. Staff is concerned about that for purposes of making sure that it's built the way it was approved. And I guess I'm reluctant. I just don't feel as though I know what's going there without knowing that information. I mean, ideally, I'd love to see a graphic that shows, which shouldn't be too hard, what it's going to look like from across the way or from the golf course. You know, you're looking up, what are you going to see? And we don't have that. We don't have anything that gives us any feeling for that. We sort of have like bare floor plan, not even floor plans, but just where the buildings are going. We don't know which one, and I don't know how to get that resolved, but I'm reluctant to. And maybe what I don't understand, does this come back to us? Or is it only this that it comes to us for?
Mr. Chair, Commission members, this is Vicky. Once they get their approval for conceptual plan, the preliminary and final plat will go straight to the Board of County Commissioners, so it will not come back to the Planning Commission.
That's what I thought. And that's why I'm reluctant to say, oh, this is okay. I mean, I think they've done a good job. I think taking the road is good. I think I agree with them about the gate. That's not their issue. But what their basic conceptual plan is the issue that we're here for, and we're not getting really a clear vision of what that is. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other folks feel differently.
Yeah, so it would be a general conceptual. Anybody else? Anything to say? Anybody else on the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
This is Fred Rasnick, and I concur with what Frank has pointed out. I'd like to ask the applicant how difficult it would be on his part to get those answers to those questions, and perhaps we could table this matter until we have that information.
Mr. Chair, this is the applicant. Can I comment?
Please.
Thank you. Again, I am willing to meet or work with staff to identify the location of the two-story, so there is no questions, and happy to even work with Scott, who lives across the way, to help me locate those with staff, so he's comfortable with the location of those. So, perfectly willing to do that. If you guys are willing to delegate that to staff, feel comfortable, staff can handle that with me and possibly Scott, if Scott would like to do that.
I guess you're wanting us to approve it, and I think, you can happily work with them, but I'm not comfortable approving it with. I mean, our job is to not delegate everything away, but to approve or disapprove on what is presented to us.
And I appreciate that. We are talking about, I think, the location of 4 houses on that east side. So you need it to defer it, I understand. But if there was a way to, it's a condition, we can make it a condition just like some of the other conditions. Not delegating in a sense, just for us to sit down and make a decision of where those be on that east side.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, go ahead, Steve.
I look back through the notes in our packet, and I keep seeing the same issues coming up over and over. The ones that we were talking about how many 2-story buildings, the issue about this paving the road and the gate, the issue about the density, and none of these ever get to seem addressed. I would like to see these addressed before we take action on this.
Okay, does that mean you want to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that this should be tabled until we have definition of how many two-story buildings we're talking about and how this gate issue is going to be resolved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? For the
Mr.
motion to
Chair,
table.
I would second that.
I'm sorry. Please repeat.
Jay Gonzalez, I would second that motion, Fred's motion.
I would make a friendly amendment that asks that we get identification of which houses are two-story and which houses are one-story. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I would accept that.
Okay, he accepts it. Okay, all in favor of the friendly amendment, say aye. Or we need a roll call vote. Karen, please report.
Sure. Fred Raznik,
Aye.
JJ Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Martin. Aye. Leroy Lopez,
Aye.
Steve Krenz,
Aye.
Frank Cass,
Aye.
Chair Gonzalez.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, this project has been tabled. I would advise you to get the staff again to get us the additional submittals needed to continue. Thank you. Okay, let's continue with the meeting. Petitions from the floor. Anybody out there, Jose? Okay. Communications from the commission members. Anybody have anything to say?
Yes, I would like to thank staff for trying so valiantly to make this work. And by and large, it has. Appreciate the hard work you've been doing.
And I will second you now, and I want to really thank Vicky because she's been a great help over here. Anybody else?
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'd like to thank staff too.
Thank you. Okay, someone have to say something else? Okay, all right. Communications with the attorney?
This is Roger Prusino, Mr. Commissioner. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Madam Santa.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience and apologize that we were a little bit late getting started. As we mentioned, the WebEx system went down before we were supposed to go live, so it took a while to get back up and running. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you as well. Okay, next regular scheduled planning commission meeting is May 21st, 2020. And can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Okay, I'll be there.
Okay, all in favor, please get me a roll call. Karen?
Oh.
Okay. Charlie Gonzalez, Frank Cass,
Yes.
Steve Krenz,
Yes.
Leroy Lopez,
Leroy. Yes. Yes.
Susan Martin,
Yes.
JJ Gonzalez,
Yes.
Fred Raznik,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes, and I also like to state that Leroy was on mute, and he says yes also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being with us, and be safe.
Good night. Be safe.
Right.
Everybody.
Good night. Be safe.